These are just some of the videos that I have been capturing recently with the brand new iPhone 16 Pro. I have been getting similar results with previous iPhones, and one of the questions that I'm getting on a daily basis is what kind of settings I'm using to get these kind of results and what apps that I'm using. And to be honest, the funny thing is that most of the time I'm just using the native camera app, and that's more than enough for what you're gonna need. In this video, I'm gonna share with you all of the settings that I'm using with the brand new iPhone 16 Pro so that you can get similar results. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Julian from smartphonefilmmakingpro.com, and just recently I got the brand new iPhone 16 Pro, and we have been basically unboxing it directly in the Apple Store, and just after that we started shooting a very interesting video where we compared the iPhone 16 Pro, the latest and greatest, to the 11-year-old iPhone 5S. A very interesting video. In case you have not seen that, I will link it up there. But one thing that has been very weird for me personally is since we did not have time to transfer everything from my old iPhone, I just set up this iPhone as a completely new one, and what I found is that the default video settings and the default camera settings as a whole that Apple is giving us, they are absolutely horrible. And in this video I'm sharing with you all of the settings that I'm using to get these kinds of results. Alright, so let's kick things off by opening up the settings app, scroll down until you can find camera. Where is it? There it is, and then just open that up, and then we're just gonna go through all of the settings, and I'm just gonna explain a little bit like why I'm using these kinds of settings. First up, if you have a brand new iPhone 16 Pro, or basically it doesn't matter what 16 you have the camera control button, this button right here. Like basically everything that you can do is if you want to have a single click or a double click to open it up, and you can also decide what kind of app that you want to open up. If you have like a third-party app, you could also open that up, but that's not what we need for now. Let's go back. When it comes to the photographic styles, like as you can see, I cannot use that, and we'll talk more about that in a second, why I don't have that activated. But for now, we're just gonna cancel that, and now let's go over to record video. Let's open that up, and as you can see, my standard setting that I always like to use is 4K at 24 frames per second, as this usually just creates the most cinematic and the most professional image. You could also use like all the high efficiency modes and all that stuff, but for me personally, 4K at 24 frames per second, this is my default mode. I have not activated the PAL formats, even though I am living in Europe, but it doesn't matter. I have turned on the enhanced stabilization. I only turn that off in case I'm shooting with an add-on lens, for example, then I turn that off. Action mode lower light, I have turned that on. And then something that is also crucial to turn that off, which might be a bit counterintuitive, that is HDR high efficiency. I have turned that off. Like, don't get me wrong, if you're just capturing videos on your iPhone and you're just looking back the videos on your iPhone, then the HDR video and the high efficiency mode is absolutely awesome. But by the time you start to transfer your videos to a computer, or you want to share it on YouTube or social media in general, like the workflow with high efficiency and HDR video gets absolutely messy and horrible, which is why I've turned that off. And talking about turning things off, I've also turned off auto FPS. Like, I want to have full control. I want to dial in the settings that I want to have, so I've turned that off. And then lock camera and lock white balance. This is very crucial because by the time you press the record button, all of your settings are getting locked, so there's no changing in exposure, there's no changing in like whatever in white balance, all that stuff. It just stays as it is. And in the past, this has always been a big critique that I had for the iPhone and for the native camera app, because the white balance has always been changing, but luckily this is now gone. Let's go back. When it comes to record slow-mo, 4K at 120 frames per second, this is an instant when I'm using the high efficiency mode, and most of the time, like, I'm just swapping around between using that high efficiency mode and not using that. But like for 9 out of 10 shots, I just turn that off basically. Let's go back here again. Record cinematic. Again, that's just 4K 24 frames per second, delivers me the best result. And by the way, you can also change these settings in the camera app. I'm going to show you that in just a second. Next up is record sound. This is something that is brand new with the iPhone 16, and that is spatial audio. And when it comes to recording spatial audio, it opens up a completely new world of possibilities, but it's also like, if you're just using it by default, then it might even sound a bit worse compared to just having like the spatial audio turned off. With the spatial audio, you're basically using all of the 4 microphones that are built into this iPhone, and then afterwards you can use some AI machine learning thing to have like different kind of effects where it's more focused on your voice or more focused on what's in frame and that kind of stuff. So I like to turn it on, and especially now since it's new and it's like it's opening up a new possibilities, I like having it, but I'm not sure like over over the long run if I actually want to have it, because like if you're using the I don't know, for example, the studio mode, then obviously it is a lot more focused on your voice, but it's also compressing your voice, and it's just like, you know, like taking away a bit of the natural feeling that the audio has. So for now I turn it on, but I'm not quite sure yet, because if you're just leaving it at spatial audio, then you're just capturing a lot of the ambient sounds as well, and it's actually a bit distracting if you try to record a voice and focus on that voice. Going back to formats, this is also something that is very crucial. High efficiency and most compatible. As I mentioned before, I have it at most compatible, because with the high efficiency, you're not getting a JPEG picture, for example, but you're getting an HEIC image format, which works fine in the Mac ecosystem, and the file sizes are smaller. But again, if you try to share those images, and you know, it just gets a bit more complex. Same thing also with the video. Like if you just have it at most compatible, you're just getting an H.264, like a basic standard video. And for online distribution, for YouTube, for social media, if that's something that you're planning to do, then I would absolutely recommend that you switch over to most compatible. Photo mode 24 megapixel, I have turned that on. I have turned ProRes, I've turned that on as well, and ProRes Max. Basically an option in the inside of the camera app where you can just turn it on when you want, but you don't need to. And then I've also turned on Apple ProRes and ProRes LOG. If you tap on that, you could switch over to HDR again. Talked about that before, but I've turned that to ProRes LOG. If you want to get the absolute best video quality and you want to get the most detail and the most crispy images, like shoot in ProRes LOG, that's gonna give you the best results. But to be honest, like for 9 out of 10 scenarios, I would not recommend that you actually use that in day-to-day scenarios, because the file sizes are ginormous. Like if you're shooting in 4K ProRes LOG and 120 frames per second, like within like, I don't know, 20 seconds or so, you have already captured a gigabyte. So the file sizes are like just massive. And you know, for day-to-day scenarios, again, for a regular YouTube video, for an Instagram post, whatever, you won't see that much of a difference. And it's just, you know, like the usage that you're getting versus the, you know, the amount of storage, the workflow that it has. And also color grading ProRes LOG without a lot is not the easiest thing in the world. So just like for me personally, how I'm using it, like for very specific scenarios, if I know I want to get the most dynamic range, the most, you know, flexibility, color grading that clip, that's when I'm using ProRes LOG. But other than that, I just use the regular video mode basically. Now let's go back, preserve settings. We don't need to talk about that. Use volume button for burst, scan QR codes, like all of these things don't matter, and you can see my settings anyways. Then the composition, the grid, I always turn that on. That is important because it's just, you know, helping you to frame your shots. By default, this is also turned off, which just has been, you know, I just don't understand that, why Apple is doing that. Level is also very helpful because you can basically see like, is your shot leveled or not? Mirror front camera, I've turned that on. Then you have the fusion camera. Basically just by tapping on the 1x, you can, you know, crop in a little bit, and that is basically it when it comes to the settings that I have in here. Now let's move over to the camera app. I can open that up with the camera control button. And something that I noticed with the brand new iPhone is that it is a bit laggy. So as you can see here, like this is alive. I'm also screen recording with my iPhone, but it's just lagging a little bit sometimes. And then there's one more thing, like in the native camera app, before you press the record button, I always like to long press on my screen to lock the focus and the exposure. Here at the top left, you can dial in the overall exposure, like the overall brightness or darkness of your image. If you turn that down, it's most of the time too dark. If you turn it up, it's most of the time too bright. The way I have it most of the time is like minus 0.03, something like this. This usually delivers great results. Or you could also leave it just at 0 and then long press on your screen, and then you could also slide it down a little bit. There is no like right or wrong. There's no like this is how you have to do it. It just depends on the environment that you're shooting in. If you want to activate ProRes LOG, just tap on ProRes LOG. But as you can see, like I could only shoot 3 minutes, and even though I have a 256 gigabyte iPhone, so yeah, the file sizes, as I mentioned before, they are just too big. So most of the time I've just turned that off. If you have any kind of extreme scenarios, then the action mode is pretty handy. I've also just recently tested that, and you know, just doing some handheld movements where you're moving around with the 5x lens, like you're getting some crazy results that look unreal even. So for very certain scenarios, I like using that. But other than that, in the native camera app, there's not a lot more that you can dial in. Also, when it comes to the camera control button, like basically the only thing that you can do is you can basically just start and stop a recording, and turn the exposure and zoom in, but that's just digitally, so that doesn't really matter. And the tone and the styles is not working in video mode. So yeah, when it comes to the video app itself, there's not a lot that you can change. It's more about how you're framing your shots, how you're using, the rules of composition and, all that kind of stuff, and how you're using lighting. But the most important thing I would say is that you have most compatible. Yeah, that's the most important thing, and make sure that you're shooting in 4K 24 frames per second or 4K 60 for any kind of B-roll shots. Something that has been pretty shocking for me personally when I unboxed the brand new iPhone, by default Apple is still dialing in obviously most compatible and everything, because it's their format that they have, and they're still recommending to shoot in 1080p at 30 frames per second, which I don't quite understand that, like why they're doing that, because this phone theoretically would also be able to shoot in 8K. The megapixel count and the processing power is definitely there, but yeah, Apple is still recommending to shoot in 1080p. Anyways, they have all of the video settings that you need to dial in to get the best video results. In case you would like to learn even more beyond that, in case you would like to learn how to shoot and edit great looking videos, because shooting great videos and having the right settings is just one part of the equation. Also, editing those videos is crucial, and in 2024 there are countless of awesome options to edit your videos directly on your iPhone. In case you want to learn more about that, we have a full masterclass teaching you everything there is to know. It will be the first link down below. And in case you have not seen the video where I am comparing the brand new iPhone 16 Pro to the iPhone 5s, then click this video over there.